Hello, everybody. My name's Adam Knox. We are Filthy Casuals. This is a game called The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which out of the three of us, myself, this guy Ben Vanel,
Hey, this is my voice.
and this guy Tommy Dasilo,
Yoo-hoo!
he was the one lucky enough to head in to the offices of Nintendo and have a look at this game, which we're catching up with now. Tommy, what do you reckon?
I reckon this is a good goddamn game. So this is the beginning of the game. Rifts have appeared all over Hyrule, and Zelda is suspected as having been the culprit of these rifts that have made kind of half of the land disappear. And so this is just after you've broken out of jail. You meet this little guy that's floating above you called Tri, and you've got your little tri-rod here. And you may have seen so far you can learn these echoes that you can then recreate anywhere in the world. And every little... So you're about to see this happen here. Now you've got a pot. And
Hell yeah.
each new echo that you get takes up a little item of energy. So you might be able to see the Tri little thing. He's got like 3 little things floating behind him.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So every time you plant an echo, that uses up a bit of his energy, and then more advanced echoes that you learn take up more of his energy. So
Cool.
yeah.
So, well, first things first, I'd have a succeed rod, and I think it's pretty pathetic that you settled for a try rod. But secondly, those barrels were glowing. It's just sort of items in the environment that are glowing to start with that you can like log into your registry.
Yep, that's your visual cue that you can use your tri-rod to make a copy of them. So yeah, a lot of your puzzles in this introductory area, they're very, just kind of getting you to grips with it, using a bed as a platform to jump onto a bookcase and things of that nature. And yeah, they've also taken the Link's Awakening Zelda 2 format of having some 2D side-scroller sections.
Yeah.
Well, and just the general visuals are very reminiscent of, that Link's Awakening remake in, what was it, 2017, whenever that was?
Yeah, is there a limit to how much you can store, how many learned things you can store in like this little menu there, or is it just infinite?
I don't believe so. Yeah, I think it's infinite. I think you... Yeah. I don't know how many of them...
It's like you can learn anything and then apply anything to any problem. So like, I guess that would make sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how many are in the game, but just based on the sort of first hour or so that I played through, there's I think a lot in the whole game. It seems like there would be a lot of them.
In the the previews and stuff they've shown so far, I think it was Enuma was like, I have no idea how many there are, and that you can do heaps of shit with them. I'm always surprised by how people make them interact. So, like, they have clearly thrown a lot at this system in a very Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom type of way.
Yeah.
All of these surprising interactions are potentially really cool. Like, I was so surprised and, I guess, excited by the concept for this game being as unusual as it is.
Yeah, it feels like with those two games, they've built a system. Like with those two, it was like physics, and then in Tears of the Kingdom, the combination of items. And this, it's like, okay, well, we've built the system. You figure out how broad and you like weirdly specific it can be applied.
Yeah. And so you're sort of seeing here, you're anytime you defeat an enemy, you get an echo of them. And the biggest thing that it has from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is that any combat encounter you have, any puzzle that you solve, you could have approached it in dozens of different ways. Like you saw there, you learn the echo of an enemy, and then you sick it on other enemies in the area. But you can also use rocks. You get a trampoline here, which obviously you can, use in multiple different ways. As you go forward,
break a kid's leg, or get them to bite through their lip, like I did both of when I was a kid. So I've just learned the pessimism echo here, and I've got a couple of things. So, firstly, this footage, we're streaming it to one another to watch it now, but it looks like it's in the footage, and it's similar to that Link's Awakening remaster. It looks like it runs kind of patchily.
I didn't really feel that as I was playing it. I think it's definitely at 30. I don't think it's as bad as the performance of Link's Awakening was.
It was just very up and down, right? Like some areas would really get noticeably weird.
Yeah, it's hard to know. They did say that this is still this isn't a finished build yet, so keep that in mind. Here's one of the bad guys from Day of the Tentacle has come back in time to Hyrule.
Oh yeah,
the ocarina's there. So the other thing with the sort of nature of what they're trying to do with the puzzles here of, hey, figure it out for yourself, come up with some lateral thinking ways to get around problems and all of that is cool on the one hand, but like in Tears of the Kingdom, occasionally you could just sort of figure out pretty broad ways to break a lot of challenges.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. So, and I feel like I've already seen people based on the footage that we've seen, be like, well, you could literally just use the bed to complete the game, for example. You know, like,
right.
Which I feel like that is kind of like purposefully missing the fun of the game.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's also partly true. Like, you can min-max whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
It is kind of a lot more constrained. Like a lot of things, you know, you hear this brief of, oh, you can do all this stuff, and it is actually a lot more constrained than what it seems like. Like, for example, only having a set amount of energy to be able to create echoes with. You can't create an endless chain of beds. You know what I mean? If you can only create 3 beds at a time. And the same with... So once you learn to copy enemies, I think enemies take up 2 of your little bits of tri-rod energy, so...
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, sleeping in an endless chain of beds, it'd be too much like my real life, man. I'd have to...
You keep getting evicted.
Well, yeah, that is true, and I think part of what's so interesting about this game is, like... Yeah, they designed the game knowing that could be a possibility. So
yeah,
of course, yeah.
It will be designed around that and finding the good mix that they were most of the time able to come up with in Tears of the Kingdom of the right mix of something being prescriptive as a puzzle versus free form.
There's something too about the format of the like
the
top-down 2D Zelda that does make it a little more... I think kind of like less open-ended with what you can kind of possibly do to break it. You are a lot more on rails than you might be in a fully, you know, 3D space, if that makes sense.
True. So you don't have a sword at all. Like, all of the combat is through this like Pokemon stuff or chucking rocks.
Because if that is the case, that seems like it could be tedious. Like, I don't want to have to throw a rock at a normal enemy 8 times to defeat it, but I guess
then it's also
the creativity
exactly.
Yeah, it is in these sections.
Mousetrap style.
It is very satisfying getting your little bats and just like as you saw just there, setting them on a group of enemies and then just sitting back and letting nature take its course.
Right. Yeah.
And that like little Pokemon aspect of going around and trying to collect everything, I can already see myself getting real 100%y about.
Yeah. And so here, this is like where the rift has gotten to the edge of in Hyrule, and so we're gonna jump in. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just hop in?
It looks inviting to me.
I don't know, man. I've been looking at this abyss for a while, and I think it's kind of looking at me too. I think I've got something with this abyss going on here. We've kind of been making eyes at each other. So Link is trapped in there.
Yep.
And I believe they have already said during their marketing for this that you will also play as Link for portions of the game. Or at least
interesting.
Portion.
I did not know that.
I don't know if it, is for a significant chunk or just they meant that intro bit where I think you play as Link kind of walking in first and then get swapped over.
Yeah, all I got shown was just you're in a jail cell and just like right before that bit that was at the start of this. So I don't know what happens in the lead up to that, but I assume it's just very like story-driven kind of stuff. So now we're in these little, these like rift bits that are on the other side of... that darkness that we could see, and these have like kind of little bits of, very mild kind of platforming in them.
So this is less of like the Dark World from A Link to the Past and more like the the not temples, but the shrines and stuff from Breath of the Wild and whatever, maybe like a little separate
little mini dungeon
rather than
a little.
Yeah.
It's a bit like there's like, as far as I can gather, there's like dungeony stuff in here, and to kind of clear up the map, you've got to, you go in here and you do this, and then that opens up the rest of it so that you can progress.
Right.
Like the rift has gone from cool.
Yeah.
And so
that bed's gonna get a lot of use. It's just a 2x4 plank.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Well,
and then
like,
you're in a little dungeony kind of thing.
It's gonna be this that makes or breaks. Obviously, that like it's such a cool concept. It reminds me weirdly of Scribblenauts.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that game where you could sort of
yeah.
write down on the DS like whatever object you wanted to create, and then it would do its best to have an equivalent for that now. But in practice, it actually meant most of the things interacted pretty similarly with one another.
Sure.
Yeah.
They were
You're
broad
drawing a lot
sort
of diagonal hills between things, and a lot of ladders and planks. Yeah.
And practicality-wise, there's very little difference between writing down bike or car or motorbike or truck or whatever. Like there's a functionally a lot of different things worked the same when you interacted with them, and I would imagine that this will end up in a similar position where, like whipping these snakes out, is there any difference between that and a bat? In a significant way.
Yeah, I think in terms of the like getting up to, hard to reach areas, certainly even just in this early bit, you've got a table, a bed, a box, you've got three things that all essentially achieve the same function. But this is also, Nintendo often do this very well, where they sort of, they really get you with the simplicity early on, and then as it, progresses and expands, you're getting into more and more complex and...
sure.
And they stack more and more on top of each other, like they got a bunch of beds.
Yeah,
or boxes. Or tables.
What? There's so many options.
And I assume they'll also like introduce artificial restrictions in certain areas.
Yes.
To like, bring you back to having less options, fewer options, and that's like, that's classic like sort of Zelda-ish stuff of like, now you're in a dungeon where you can't use the blah blah blah.
Totally, and I'm excited that they're doing a more traditional Zelda game, even though like on paper, like a lot of the stuff about this is more experimental than plenty of them have been. Like you're playing as Zelda for the first time. It's cool that they've given her a like different thing to have be her thing, rather than just it would have been Link, but it's Zelda this time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's quite cool, and this unique idea. But this is like super old-fashioned.
Who
Hello.
have we here?
It's Zelda.
I can't believe he's here. Oh, he's gone rogue.
Uh-oh. Yep. He's a bad little boy.
All right, that's cool. That's a bit of fun.
He's trying to kill you. He's trying to kill you. And so you unlocked before we unlocked before the bind ability, which lets you grab objects and kind of either they'll move with you, or you can hold down the R trigger and you'll move with them.
That was intense. What a flash forward. We've obviously chopped some of this footage together from longer periods and can only use clips for certain lengths of time due to Nintendo's stipulations.
Yep.
That's correct.
You sign a contract that says, just make this as hard as possible for me. But so that, that like beam you were talking about before is a separate ability to this replication ability that I'm assuming you'll get more of too. We saw you drag the boulder off the thing before with it. Now we've got a sword.
We sure do. Bet you guys feel pretty stupid for what you were saying before, right?
I want to go back and edit it out.
I'm going to edit in Nox and me holding swords and being like, everyone has a sword and swords are cool.
Zelda will never get a sword. Oh, that's a bit of fun.
So you have a sword, but you have you can activate the sword ability by pushing up, and it's timed and it refills with little kind of orbs of energy that you pick up. So it's a little concession to like, some puzzles that you use the sword for, or combat that you can choose to use the sword for, but it still is it's still largely about the puzzle solving and the Echo's ability. It doesn't just let you use it flat out for the entire game.
Yeah, this is more like one of those when you get like the rage mode in God of War or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, it's cool. I think so far they've got the balance in this early. I mean, what you were saying before, Nox, about it being like the traditional Zelda kind of stuff. Like all this dungeoning ass around was just, boy, it was really scratching the itch for me. It really felt
well. As much as with that Link's Awakening remaster, it being a Game Boy game that was years old and full price or whatever, I have my fucking whinge about it. But the aesthetic especially was really cool, and the style of gameplay, and having that kind of come back with this pretty significant twist is really cool. And just like already in this limited amount of time, you can see they're chucking creative ideas at the wall.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what they did with Super Mario Bros. Wonder, where it's like, there's been a bunch of fantastic 2D platformers, since the last Nintendo one. There's been a bunch of isometric puzzle games in the recent years that have really stepped up and been, worthy competitors of the vintage Zelda games, and this coming around and being like, hey, we're the originals, we're the best, and in classic Nintendo style, here's a bunch of sick ideas that no one else has had yet.
Right,
it's
really
one
fun.
of those.
For sure, and it's very funny to be saying this while we're talking over horizontal platforms moving slightly.
I've never seen them done in this way.
Nintendo are back, and their creativity is unbounded.
This is using that was using the other side of the bind thing, where you're being dragged by an object instead of you moving it around.
Right. Yeah,
and cool. Here's your little dungeon boss. There's heaps of other puzzly stuff that was in this one too that we don't have.
Sure. So this felt like a proper scale sort of.
Oh yeah, this was like
dungeon.
Probably half an hour or so. In terms of it being an introductory one, but yeah.
I'm very interested to see what sort of length and scope this thing will have. They've come up with the idea yet again of what if guy with two hands. I feel like that is a common Nintendo boss of
what if floating.
Man, fists are dangerous.
So you can see where his weak spot is. You can't really get close, but you send your little boys in there to eat his ass.
It's his little glowing.
Where's the weak spot? The strong roller, like the rock hands, is it? Is it the big rock head?
Is it the big rock head that looks like it's made out of concrete?
Why are they all punching that bit? Yeah, cool. I mean, this is that Zelda that I'm after.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
great. Cool.
The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom.
That's the whole game.
All right. Pretty short, but thanks for playing through the entire thing for us, Tommy.
Yep.
That's out pretty soon. Go have a listen to our podcast if you want to hear us talk in a bit more detail about it.
Yeah, filthycasuals.com.au for everything that we do, including a discussion of this video's discussion.
Babe.